Hello, I'm Jared Taylor with American Renaissance. Everyone has now been told that Black Lives Matter. Politico magazine calls the BLM movement the second civil rights movement. The New York Times says it is the 21st century's first civil rights movement. President Obama says we, as a society, have to take this seriously. The Democratic National Committee passed a resolution supporting Black Lives Matter. Well, let's take a look at this wonderful movement. It started in 2013 when a Florida jury found George Zimmerman innocent in the death of Trayvon Martin. Mr. Zimmerman fired in self-defense after Martin knocked him to the ground and started pounding him, but blacks believe it was cold-blooded murder. As Alicia Garza, one of the three founders of the movement, explains, she started it, quote, after 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was posthumously placed on trial for his own murder. Got that? She says Trayvon Martin was put on trial. Ms. Garza explains further on the BLM website that, quote, Black lives are systematically and intentionally targeted for demise. Ms. Garza, who calls herself queer, explains that black poverty and genocide is state violence. And it's wrong to say all lives matter because, and I quote, black people, not all people, exist within conditions that are the consequences of state violence. Another founder is Patrisse Cullors. Here she is on a BLM speaking tour in England in February. I've been organizing since I was 16, she says. I came out as queer and was kicked out of home. She has a long list of demands, and until they're met, she says, we're gonna shut shit down. She calls her critics, quote, gun-toting white racists. The third founder is another black woman named Opal Tometi, who is apparently not queer. She is the daughter of immigrants from Nigeria where queerness is frowned on. But she has long been at the forefront of what she calls the fight against structural racism and systemic discrimination. So here we have three black women. That is to say, people who are supposed to be the most despised, oppressed, unimportant people in America. And two of them are lesbians who, as they put it, bear a unique burden in a hetero-patriarchal society that disposes of us like garbage. Well, somehow, these three targets of genocide managed to start a movement that was on the short list for Time magazine's Person of the Year and were just nosed out by Angela Merkel. The BLM website explains that it is unapologetically black. It lists 27 chapters in the U.S. and one in Canada, but warns that membership is, quote, predicated on black self-determination, and chapters reserve the right to limit participation based on this principle. That sounds like a way to keep white people out. Black Lives Matter really took off after Officer Darren Wilson shot Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri in August 2014. BLM demonstrators contributed to the charged atmosphere that led to rioting. But just as in the Trayvon Martin shooting, all the shouting was based on lies. Brown wasn't shot in the back. He wasn't on his knees. His hands weren't in the air. He had just robbed a convenience store and attacked a policeman. So the entire movement is based on lies. It has its list of saints, Martin, Brown, Tamir Rice, Eric Garner, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray, Eric Harris. But in almost every case, the police did absolutely nothing wrong. If they did something wrong, they've been indicted. When President Obama was gushing about Black Lives Matter, he insisted that, quote, the African American community is not just making this up. It is making this up. When the police have to kill a wild or threatening black man, it's not genocide, for heaven's sake. Maybe hopped up black people can't tell the difference, but white people certainly should be able to. In any case, over the last couple of years, the movement has reportedly put on more than 1,000 demonstrations where they shout, white silence is violence, and carry signs that say, is my son next? And the movement has carried out Patrisse Culler's promise to, in her words, shut shit down. In November 2014, one of the founders, Alicia Garza, helped shut down the BART rapid transit lines in and out of Oakland for an hour and a half. BLMers chained themselves together so a subway car door wouldn't close. Mechanics had to disassemble part of the train to break them loose. All charges were, of course, dropped. In July this year, BLMers in Toronto shut down part of the Allen Expressway at rush hour because the Canadian police apparently target black bodies for genocide too. And the month after, they marched around Toronto, stopping traffic and shutting down trolley lines. But BLM's greatest glory is in humiliating white Democrats. In July, presidential candidate Martin O'Malley was supposed to speak at the very lefty Netroots Nation conference. When blacks shouted, "Black Lives Matter," Mr. O'Malley replied, "All lives matter." Big mistake. The blacks booed and jeered furiously, and Mr. O'Malley had to apologize. "That was a mistake on my part," he said. "I meant no disrespect." Can you imagine having to apologize for saying that all lives matter? Patrisse Cullers, one of our queer friends, was at Netroots Nation too, where she said, "Rise the fuck up and burn everything down." I like the symmetry of those sentiments. She also said, black on black crime is a myth, and she told followers that if the conversation ever goes in that direction to, quote, shut it down. Bernie Sanders got the O'Malley treatment the next month. He was just warming up thousands of fans in Seattle when two BLMers, women, walked on stage. That's Bernie cowering in the background. One of the women grabbed the microphone and began the usual harangue. When the mostly white audience booed, she accused them of what was a new concept for me, namely white supremacist liberalism. All by themselves, two women shut down Bernie Sanders. In October, the Democratic mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti, tried to hold a town hall meeting at a black church, but BLMers started yelling their mantra. Good little Garcetti, who had seen what had happened to other Democrats, said what he was supposed to say, and I quote, "Black lives matter in a unique way, and you and I see eye to eye on this." Not good enough. He got the bum's rush. As the Los Angeles Times reports, Garcetti, ringed by police officers, struggled to reach his car as he was swarmed by a crowd of chanting activists. And once inside the vehicle, he was forced to wait amid blaring sirens until the crowd was dispersed. As you can see, one guy jumped on the trunk of his car. No arrests, of course. BLM hasn't done so well with Republicans. Jeb Bush supporters at a rally in August started chanting back, "All lives matter," and even "White lives matter." Imagine that. When three BLMers started shouting at a Trump rally in November, the audience knocked the noisiest one to the ground and punched him. But Bernie Sanders? By the time of the October Democratic presidential debate in Las Vegas, he'd learned his lesson. When a black student asked, "Do black lives matter or do all lives matter?" Bernie answered, "Black lives matter." Good boy, Bernie. In August, at the Minnesota State Fair, BLM marchers chanted about the police.
Fry like bacon, pigs in a blanket, 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 fry like bacon, pigs.
The pigs were protecting them, even though they were demonstrating without a permit. Naturally, no arrests. In December, at the University of Kansas, blacks were angry that sorority girls had the nerve to try to raise money for children with cancer at the same time as a BLM rally. They said it was racist. In the fall, Yale hired a Black Lives Matter leader, DeRay McKesson, to give a lecture series. He assigned an article called "In Defense of Looting," which justified smash and grab because the ruling class violently maintains its own property. But my favorite BLM demonstration was in November at Dartmouth. 150 blacks poured into the library where students were studying for exams and shouted, "Fuck you, filthy white fuckers," and "Fuck you, you racist shits." They surrounded one white woman, yelled at her till she cried, and then shouted, "Fuck your white tears." No arrests, no discipline from the university. These black Ivy Leaguers really are in a league of their own, like the ones at Yale and Princeton who cursed their teachers and demanded one crazy thing after another. They must be the most coddled and petted black people in the history of the world. And there they are, furious over what they call entrenched white supremacy on campus. Well, I have only one thing to say to you people in the Black Lives Matter movement. I love you. Keep doing exactly what you're doing. Make heroes out of thugs like Michael Brown. Force lick-spittle politicians to mouth your inane slogan. Shut down freeways. Encourage looting. Curse your professors. Insult the police. Tell us our silence is violence. Claim over and over that you are targets of genocide. Make women cry and then say, "Fuck your white tears." You are the perfect advertisement for white racial consciousness. You are doing the job of 1,000 American Renaissance videos. You are driving people into our arms. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.